Right, okay, so let's create our first material. And our first material is going to be this sort of plastic material in here. So I'm just going to come right in here so we can really see. So we can really see kind of this Maxon logo object. And so I'm going to go to create materials and I'm going to get a new standard material. So the reason I don't double click or use this is because I have my default material set up as Redshift. So I can't do that. So I'm going to leave this as a default material and I'm just going to kind of duplicate it every time I want to make a new one. So I'm going to leave this as it is. And I'm just going to call it default. So you guys don't have to do this if you're like standard Cinema 4D is set up for standard materials. That's fine. This is just for me. And I'm just going to command and click this. So I'm going to keep this default material here just so I have access to that instead of having to go to create material every time. Right, okay, so let's double click this material. And we're going to call this plastic. And we're going to make a plastic material. And as Matt just showed us, we are going to create these the kind of like the more physical way. So we're not really going to use the color channel, but I will be using it for some of the textures. So I'm just going to switch that off. And in my reflectance, we're going to remove our, like our fake specular. So we're going to get rid of that. So the first thing we want to add is we want to add our diffuse so we can define the color. So if I grab that, and inside our layer color, this is where we can choose, you can choose any color that you want. I'm going to go for a bit of like let's go for like a red, maybe sort of like a slightly darker red. Okay. Yeah, let's go for that. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag and drop that on my material, on my object, sorry. So now we can see we have our red color. But we have kind of no reflectance going on. And what we're going to do, we're going to add another layer and we're going to kind of change our layer Fresnel and use a preset to make it look kind of nice and like plasticky. So let me just sort of come out of here so we can see this a bit better. Right, so let me add my Beckman. And it's gone kind of fully shiny, fully reflective. And so we don't want that. We want to come down to our layer Fresnel. And where it's set to none, we're going to set this to dielectric. Because we're creating a plastic material, we're going to want to choose the Fresnel as dielectric. And then it's the preset. We have a whole bunch of presets in here, which are super handy and super useful, and we'll be using like a whole bunch of them. And I find this PET works quite well as sort of like a glossy plastic. And so if we take a look, we have a bit of like a glossy plastic material now. And all we've really done is set this up inside of our reflectance. So we could have, added our color and put our red color in there, but as kind of like the guys were saying, it can render a little bit longer. So, you want to try and get that all in the reflectance channel. So that was our first texture. So super quick, super easy. We now have our plastic material. So I'm just going to drag and drop this on these other little bits here. Cool, right, so now let's come out of here and let's now create let's come into here, into our little lava lamp. I'm going to create a bit of like a brushed chrome texture. So again, I'm just going to copy my default material over, and I'm just going to call this, let's call this brushed, if I could spell, brushed chrome. Cool. So we're going to drop our material onto the different parts of our lava lamp. So we're going to have this top section and this bottom section, because inside here it's going to be all glass. And let's double click to open our material. Again, we can switch off our color channel because we don't need that. And inside our reflectance, we can just delete our default specular. Cool. So now we can add, I'm going to add a GGX because GGX is the better option for when it comes to creating metals. So I'm going to grab my GGX, and already, I mean, on its own, it actually looks quite a nice sort of rough metal material. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to come down to my layer Fresnel. This time I'm going to choose conductor because it's a metal material. And my preset, a handy one here is silver. And inside my layer color, I'm going to sort of make this a little bit of like a darker gray, and it's going to create this really nice sort of slightly darker chrome, or maybe a bit of like a platinum. So if I sort of bring this down, we now have this sort of nice darker metal material. And I might even increase my roughness just slightly, just so we create that nice like brushed effect. So if we sort of come into here, so we've got that nice kind of like slightly brushed chrome effect. But if you want a super shiny, you can just turn your roughness down to 0 and you get that really nice shine, and it's kind of reflecting all that stuff around it as well as that HDRI image. But let me just put that back up to 19. Okay, so let's now create, actually first of all, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to duplicate this brush chrome texture. I'm going to open that up, and I'm just going to put this back, so pretty much 100% white. So we have more of like a lighter chrome, and I'm going to apply this to our brackets on the back of our shelf. So let me just drag and drop that onto these, and because that was symmetry, I've only had to apply it to the main cube, and it's kind of just duplicated it over, and then the same under here for these brackets. Just going to add those on, and that's looking okay already, to be fair. So let's come into here. Let's create a ceramic material using noises. So I'm just going to, again, duplicate this over, and I'm going to call this ceramic. And I'm going to make sure that's on my vase. Cool, right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load a noise inside of, I'm just going to do it inside of my color channel just to show this. Right, so let me grab a noise. And so we can see this noise shader has kind of been mapped onto our vase object. What we can do, we've got a whole bunch of different noises in here, so we can take a look and see which ones. So when it comes to sort of defining your roughness, perhaps you might want to have a look through and see which of these suit. But I'm actually going to stay on the standard noise, and I'm just going to adjust my global scale. So ceramic material has sort of like some of those little like speckles. Well, that's the one that I'm creating, is going to be sort of like with a whole bunch of little like speckles over the top of it. And so if I reduce my global scale, we can see that we're getting a slightly finer noise shader. And if we go even further, let's go to maybe like 10%, we're getting even finer. And so we're almost sort of faking these little speckles. I think I ended up on something like a global scale of 2. And so we're getting a little bit closer, but I'm now going to adjust the low clip and the high clip of my noise shader to kind of get rid of some of the sort of like darker areas and bring up some of the whiter areas. So we're getting sort of a few less of these speckles going on. So if I reduce my high clip, we can see this is sort of brightening up, or sort of is removing some of those darker areas, and it's sort of it's clamping it slightly. So if I move this quite a bit down, it should update here. So we now have this sort of effect going on, and it looks a little bit more like this ceramic material, especially when we're sort of at a bit of a distance. It's a nice way of sort of like faking the effect. And so we're going to come into our reflectance again. We want to make sure we delete our default specular, and we're going to add a Beckman. And we just need to change our Fresnel again to dielectric. And I'm going to leave it on custom, but at the moment it's a little bit too shiny for my liking. So I'm just going to sort of increase my roughness a little bit, just so we're getting that sort of slightly less kind of glossy effect, a bit more diffuse.
Yeah, a nice sheen, but not too shiny.
Yeah. And one other thing, really quickly, that I'm going to do, I'm going to come in real close to here, and I'm going to come back to my color channel, and I'm going to click this little kind of down arrow here, and I'm going to copy my shader, and it's going to copy my noise shader. Then we can go into our bump channel, and this is where, you know, we can fake some of that like false displacement, bit of sort of like added texture. And I'm just going to paste my shader in. And so now where these sort of these little speckled areas are from our original noise shader, we now have some bump. And at the moment the strength is way too high. So let's just sort of move this back down to 5. Maybe let's go for 8. Yeah, this is all kind of, you know, preference really. And so now we have quite a nice kind of ceramic looking material, and we've done that just by using our noise shaders. So, you know, so you could use the noise shader inside of your reflectance. So, you know, you have your layer mask or your layer color, and all you do is do your little drop down, and then you can add your noise in there. So that's how you do it using noise shaders. Right, cool, let's do a glass material, because this should be super quick and super easy, and we're going to do this on our lava lamp. So let me just come in there, get my render region back up. Right, so this is going to be our glass. So let me just drop my glass onto here. And you know what, I'm going to, my ceramic material, I'm also going to use for the base of our little dolphin guy. So I'm just going to drag and drop that on there, just so it's on there as well. Right, let's create some glass. And so inside our reflectance, this is going to be a recurring theme for a while. It's just to delete our specular, and then we're going to add our Beckman. And we can use, really simply, we can use a preset for this, for our glass. So we want to go to dielectric because, you know, we're not creating a metal material, so it doesn't need to be conductor. And then in our preset, we actually have glass as a set preset. And it sets our IOR as well. And so, you know, the IOR, index of refraction, is 1.517 for glass. But if you're using maybe like clear acrylic or like acrylic glass, it's 1.49. And so, you know, you can just Google and you can do like the most accurate IOR for the material that you're creating. And there is another step we need to do, because at the moment it's not really looking like glass. And that's because we need to also switch on our transparency. So luckily enough for us, by default, our refraction preset is actually already set to glass, and our index of refraction is exactly what we need it to. So all we need to do is switch on our transparency, and now we have our glass material. Cool. Right, so let's now create the gold for our dolphin, because it's using all the same kind of methods that we've just been looking at with our reflectance channel. So let me just copy that over. I'm going to call this gold. Let's just call it gold because I haven't decided whether it's going to be shiny or rough yet. So just going to double click that gold material, and we want to make sure we drop it onto our dolphin. Cool. So we're going to switch off our color, and inside our reflectance channel, we're going to delete our default specular, and we're going to add a GGX because it's a metal. Inside our layer Fresnel, again, we can choose conductor. And what's really nice is we have so many presets. So depending on the material you're creating, you can probably find the preset inside of here, or at least you can choose a preset that's going to be a really nice starting position. So I'm going to grab gold, and it looks quite nice anyway. But what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to adjust my layer color just to sort of bring a bit more kind of a gold color into the reflection. So if I sort of drag this over and we're looking for a bit of like a gold, a bit more yellowy, right over here. And so it sort of just sort of like adds that color onto the reflection instead of it being like that pure white. So I think that's quite nice. And should we go for a super shiny, or should we go for a bit of a rough? What should we do? That's a bit too much. Let's maybe go something like that. Cool. Right. And I might even, I might even add this brush material onto there. So we have our whole little ornament finished there. Right, so now let's work on our neon sign, because this is going to be using a couple of different channels inside of the material manager. But let's get right in here. So for my backplate, I'm actually just going to duplicate my plastic material. I'm just going to change this to plastic, and we're going to make it like a white plastic. So I'm going to drop that onto there, and I'm just going to open it up, and we're going to sort of adjust some of the settings in here. So my layer 1, which is my diffuse, which is my color. In my layer color, I'm going to just choose just like an off-white. I'm not going to go 100% white. I might go about there. See what this looks like. So that's looking all right. And now we can work on our neon material. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop that onto my text, onto my kind of sweep. Let's just come back out a little bit so we can see this. Right, so what we're going to do is we are going to switch off our color, and we're also going to switch off our reflectance because we don't need that. But we are going to work with luminance. So this is also, as Matt showed us, going to give off some lighting in our scene as well. And in the luminance channel, here is where we can define the color that we kind of, want our neon text to sort of be. So I'm going to go for a bit of a red, match that there. And we can, we can up our brightness if we wanted to. We can go a bit like crazy with it. And so that's a little bit too much. So let's go back down to 100. And then we can use glow as like a little bit of like a post effect to create that glow on the outside without having to create it by upping the brightness in our luminance. So we can come down to the glow. I'm just going to switch this on. And if you watch, as soon as it fully kind of renders, we then get this glow that appears afterwards, a bit like, like a post effect. At the moment, the strengths are a little bit too much. And so if we come to our outer strengths, we can reduce this maybe down to something like 200. So because my objects are all like really small, we don't need these like crazy big numbers going on. And so that works, that looks okay. Maybe I'll come into the luminance, maybe we can mess with the brightness a little bit. So all of this is, just tweaking to find the look that you think works. You know what, let's leave it at that for now. Let's see what it looks like as we sort of come back out of it. Let's see what this is looking like at the moment. Okay, so yeah, we've got that nice like luminance and that nice kind of glow going on our neon sign.